The next item, I'm going to try it again, is the continued public hearing for 189-263 Hancock Street, Los Quincy, MBTA Station, Certificate of Consistency, Planning Board Case 2017-COC-02. Make sure you identify yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Bob Hines, on behalf of Mahoney and Hines, who represents the Quincy Partnership. We're here today, as the chair said, for approval of certificate of consistency. As the board's aware, the combination of Atlantic Development and Rizzuto were designated the developers of Oak Ridge train station. Present before you today, we have DJ McKinnon, who's the principal of Atlantic Development, Julie Cronin from Rizzuto. From Icon Architect, we have Nancy Ludwig, and we have Dave Stockless. Also from Bolar Landscape, we have Matt Mava and Josh Swirling. We also have for traffic, Giles Ham, and from HCM, we have Taylor Howell. We're before this board. We were before the board for an engineering process before. We gave an engineering presentation. We told this board we would divide it up into two. What was the engineering, what was the architectural part of it. Today we reached the architectural part of it. What we're proposing, just so quickly, I know DJ's going to come in next, is we're proposing to build 610 apartments there. It also includes 50,000 square feet of commercial. There's also going to be approximately 1,567 parking spots, and you'll get more explanation there. But this is part of the transit-oriented district we want to develop. As you are well aware, the MBTA is moving forward to develop their train stations and make it much more transit-oriented for people to live there, commute there, and shop there. So what we have in here is the architectural presentation of what the building's going to look like and what everything's going to be there. So we know it's going to be a long process. We know after this meeting there's still going to be many meetings with the planning department as we go forward, because again, it's a major project. The mayor took careful analysis of who he would give the designation to. He gave it to Rizzuto and Atlantic Development, and we think we have a good project. We think it's good for the city, and it fits well. So I'm going to introduce DJ McKinnon now from Atlantic Development. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just for the record, I'm DJ McKinnon from Atlantic Development. Before you, I know I've been before you a couple of times now, so what I'm going to do is just kind of start off, go through some of the opening slides, and then immediately turn it over to Nancy to go ahead with the architectural slide. So with that, why don't we just move on to the next slide, Taylor? Okay. Just quickly on the agenda, we're going to recap the prior planning board presentations, then talk about the transit-oriented district approval process, followed by the architecture, landscape, transportation, and then public benefits. Move to the next slide. And this will just be the recap of the prior planning board presentation. We can move on to the site itself. We've got a 7-acre property. Today there are approximately 852 parking spaces. All of those will be replaced in a new expedited garage that will be built on the site. From a timing standpoint, we started there we go. This all started back in July of 2015 when the MBTA issued an RFP on the property. We all submitted bids on November 2015, and then in April 2016, we were awarded designated under the RFP the developer, and it's a partnership between Rizzuto and Atlantic. Since that time, we've had an ongoing process with the MBTA design review and approvals, and now starting to work with the city on the approval process. So, next I'll just briefly mention the transit-oriented district approval process. Next slide. Okay, under the transit-oriented district, the goal is to encourage mixed-use development at the transit locations, and the process requires a consistency review by the planning board. That's why we're before you tonight and have been before you in the past meetings. We have to show that we're in conformance with the TOD design guidelines, that our uses conform with the TOD permitted uses, that we comply with the dimensional guideline, dimensional requirements as well as the off-street parking. Part of the TOD district has a very comprehensive set of design guidelines that this board adopted a few months ago for the North Quincy district that require the landscape character and connectivity. They address parking and transportation along with the architectural design and sustainability. And next, we're going to move on to Nancy with the architecture.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Ludwig from Icon Architecture. You know the site, I think. It's the North Quincy Station. And I'm sure you know the views around there. You know the site stretches along Hancock Street and looks across the MBTA head house at the back of the site, across to the office building on the other side of the tracks. We're proposing 2 phases to the project. To the southern side of the site, phase 1, which will include the garage, which replaces the parking and adds residential parking, including in this diagram, building A and B, and in phase 2, building C, which is the northern side of the site. The building has been designed to really fit its setting. The garage will sit towards the head house, closest to the tracks, so that patrons can use that and get to the head house. Building A really has a couple of elements that really speak to its position against Swanham Street and looking out toward Hancock Street. Building C, or phase 2, will really address the views as you come into North Quincy, coming south on Hancock Street. And a connector building has a series of projecting volumes in it that help break down the scale of the building. At the first floor, we've worked to place retail, a larger retail usage, 50,000 square feet, down towards the bus connections and the southern head house. There'll be retail parking actually at the first level of the garage. We pull retail up to the street at the site entry that's off of Hancock Street, and then use below the housing in phase 2 for residential parking. When you come into that center drive of the site, you are directed to the ramp, which brings you up into the garage. There are a total number of 1,567 parking spaces, which are replacing the parking that is there now, as well as incorporating residential usage parking. And we've come up with a fairly clever design that allows kind of an internal circulation, so we can reserve some of the parking, which you see in orange here, for residential, and then have a simple loop for the MBTA patrons that would be parking there as well. So what does it look like? Coming into that central drive where you come to engage this drive system into the parking garage, you see we've made a lot of efforts to break down the scale of the building and step it down towards Hancock Street, which you see on the left here. We've pulled the main entry to the building, made it very glassy, so that you can look in and see a lot of activity. And of course, to the left, you see the retail volume that we've pulled up to the street. I now am across Hancock Street, and I'm looking back towards what would be that phase 2 piece. And so you can see this idea of, although we have a facade that comes along Hancock Street, we've spent a lot of care to break it down into separate volumes that really reflect the scale of this community. Further, coming up Hancock Street, you look at this volume. We're doing a lot to break down the mass, pulling the retail up to the ground plane and providing landscaping in those setbacks so that there's a lively walk that will come along this edge, providing some decks and some balconies so that it has a residential quality on its upper levels. I've now come back all the way to the northern side on Hancock Street as you're starting to descend here, and so you see we've made a design that really speaks to this entry as you come into the district. And now I've come much further down Hancock Street, and you're looking past, you actually see the existing side of the commercial building where McDonald's is. And so you can see the way we've begun to break down the volume of this building, set back some of the building, pull some forward, provide another signed entry into the development that will have retail signage as well as a housing identity, and develop these elements on the corner that will really have signage and speak to this retail user that's on the ground floor here. The materials that we're proposing are a mix of masonry and siding and some metal materials to highlight some of the bays and balconies and projecting volumes on the building. Those are the upper levels where we've defined sort of a middle and an attic level top to break down the scale of the building with the deep corners. And at the ground level, we're proposing broad areas of glass so that you can look in and see the activity and life of the uses that we've brought down to the street. Now I've come all the way to the Squantum-Hancock intersection, and so you see again how we've been able to pull these volumes forward so that it does not feel like one long building, but a series of buildings that run the length of the property. And then coming up to the bus drop-off area, here you see the existing bus shelter. We've provided the retailer here with a primary entry into that store. It's really a two-level space. And so we've created a mezzanine so that actually if you're getting off the T or the bus here, you can come directly into the retail use at this corner. There's a 20-foot strip of landscaping that actually sort of transitions that drop in grade so that you can also walk down to the lower level of the site. And at that point, you would engage this outdoor plaza that we're proposing in front of the retailer here at the main level of the site. We are very mindful of the sustainability guidelines that are part of the TOD development guidelines that you've put out. So we're working to design efficient buildings and use very green systems as a part of their construction. We're working to use very robust and authentic materials, and we'll work with the contractor to limit waste disposal during construction. It's a good use. We're building on a site that's already been developed and making it greener and better. Of course, the shared garage makes for reduced car usage for the development, and we think the retail and the landscaping that we've put along the street edges will really encourage transit, bike, and pedestrian usage. And my segue to have the landscape architect come up is that the site has been designed to improve stormwater quality and sustainable landscaping. And with that, let me introduce Matt Merva from Bowler Engineering.
Thanks, Quincy. Again, my name's Matt Merva with Bowler Engineering, landscape architect. And what we've done in terms of the landscape on the project is really try to complement the architecture to provide activity at the street level that will complement these ground floor uses that Nancy's mentioned. As you can see here, we're showing the actual ground plane of the project, so you can see the retail anchor on the southern end, as well as some retail spaces along Hancock Street that would be in front of the main parking field associated with the retail component on this end. And those garage and residential uses would be above this area here in the lighter gray. Likewise, on the other side, what Nancy referred to as Building C, the ground floor is parking with retail and lobby space at the ground level, and then the architecture of the residential would be above that area. What we've done with the landscape is to provide some enhancement to those ground level uses and those activity areas. We provided a plaza space here with a tree-lined boulevard entry into the site. We've enhanced the plaza space outside of the MBTA head house here, as you can see, and provided a significant street tree element along Hancock Street and Sagamore Street along our frontage there to create that active edge and the buffering. Those plazas are highlighted in these zones, just zoomed in here so you can see a little more clearly. In the plantings, we're looking at providing species that are commonly found in the Northeast. We want to cut down on water usage here, so we're intending these to provide seasonal interest to native and non-invasive species in this area. To provide some buffering along the railroad tracks to the rear, provide a rain garden opportunity at this Sagamore intersection, and again, the street tree condition to really create that urban edge along Hancock and Sagamore. In conjunction with the landscape, with the softscape material, we're also providing a family of street tree furnishings that will enhance these spaces as well. New bike racks to promote the multimodal aspects of the site. Pedestrian scale street lighting along Hancock Street and our plaza space here. Generous wide sidewalks, 15 to 20 feet wide, with room for a planted feature strip. And special paving to identify entries into the buildings and areas of special interest within the site. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of that, and I'm going to turn it over now to Giles to discuss transportation.
Good evening, Giles Sam with Vanessa Associates. It's always tough to follow up with nice architecture or landscape with traffic, but I'll do my best. We've done a very detailed traffic study in consultation with staff. Given this nature of this project, we look at weekday morning, weekday evening, and Saturday midday traffic analysis. We've done traffic counts in the area. It's been a very public process. We've had neighborhood meetings. The city's hired a peer review in addition to your own traffic engineer to review the project, and we're working with staff. The project's also subject to the state NEPA review, environmental notification form, and EIR documents are being submitted. And as you've heard, it's really a smart growth development. We have mixed uses, we have retail, we have residential, we have transportation choices, walk, bike, bus, or the red line, and we have also shared parking. The residential and the MBTA will share parking. The residential will use evening and weekend parking that's used by the MBTA. We really have built-in mitigation for this project. When you put dense housing with retail on an MBTA station, your mitigation is there. You're going to reduce traffic just by the nature of where the project is. So you can actually live here, and you can shop here, or you can take the T, and we see big reductions in traffic as a result of just the location it's in. Just quickly, study area, look at 15 intersections within the area. Hancock Street, Sagamore Street, Swanham Street, so it's really a detailed analysis. Look at all these intersections and working with staff in terms of detailed analysis. I'm not going to test you on all these numbers, but this is just standard traffic generation we use. To point out that we're using a 60% reduction in transit trips, 25% reduction in the apartment trips because of the location of the project, 25% reduction in retail trips, and 35% pass by with a retail. If you're driving by the site on your way home, you can go in and shop, and that reduces the new traffic to the area. We've assumed a supermarket. It may or may not be a supermarket. It's probably going to be neighborhood type retail. So worst case scenario, we assume a supermarket, but it may or may not be that case. Just quickly in terms of traffic distribution, we look at it as a local neighborhood market. So kind of evenly distribution of traffic, north, south, east, west, no real significant orientation in any direction. In terms of the residential trip distribution, because we have the red line, the MBTA, we don't see a lot of traffic driving to the north. We see them jumping on the red line. So we have 10% traveling to the north because of that usage. We've looked at parking. We've looked at shared parking here, and so what this graph really looks at parking demand throughout the time of the day. So the bottom blue numbers, we've actually measured the MBTA parking demand today, and their peak is at 12 noon time is when that peak is over the course of the day, and then we've added the residential demand and the retail demand, and our peak is around 1,400 peak cars, and we have just under 1,600 cars. So it's adequate parking for this project on site. And just quickly trying to wrap up here, going really from left to right here, we're looking at some pedestrian improvements at the Holmes Street intersection. There's a lot of crossings there, so we're looking at some sort of enhancement to move that crossing there. This is a right turn in only driveway. This is a retail here. So we have the Hancock Street southbound right turn in only driveway at that location. This traffic signal at Hunt Street will be upgrading that intersection, kind of narrowing it up. Have 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes coming out. with a new pedestrian crosswalk at this location here to bring into the sidewalk system within the site. And then really to the northern part of the site, there'll be a new driveway out to Sagamore Street. We'll be modifying that roadway, we'll be adding sidewalk, and we'll be adding bike shelves, and really have a nice entryway in from Sagamore Street. And then just really finally, an important component of a project like this is travel demand management. So we'll be posting schedules on site. We'll have bicycle spaces throughout the site. Within the garage, we'll have car share spaces, electronic charging space, kind of the new things we put into garages to help reduce traffic levels. Parking management will have on-site signage, wayfinding signage within the site. Again, we talk about shared parking. And within the parking management, we'll be monitoring the parking demand throughout the course of the opening of the project in the first few years. And then finally, post-development, typical, we'll be monitoring traffic levels, parking levels, and do tenant surveys in terms of what their transit usage is. So that's really a brief traffic summary. We continue to work with staff in their peer review going forward. So with that,
I just have one question, and I want to make sure that I know we probably have questions of everybody else. One quick question, how far south on your counts on Hancock Street did you go?
down to Hanover Plaza, south of Billings, down to
Okay.
Hanover Plaza. So
Okay.
it's pretty
Yeah.
extensive. And when we presented that study area, the staff was like, well, they probably wouldn't ask us to go down that far, but it was pretty comprehensive. Okay?
Any questions? Go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, we'll just kind of walk through the next few slides, and obviously happy to answer any questions. So, a couple more count. Cool. Night.
Too many gadgets.
Oh, that one. Good work. I'm just going to quickly recap with the public benefits. I know there's people here that weren't at the last meeting, so that's why we're repeating some of this for the board. From a neighborhood standpoint, it's really transforming this 7-acre parking lot into a larger mixed-use community to provide the retail for the local community, as well as promoting safe paths to and from the station with pedestrian improvements, along with providing safe, covered, well-lit commuter parking. Ongoing benefits to the city, it's about 150 new permanent jobs and about $1.6 million in new annual real estate taxes, as well as a significant contribution to the city affordable housing and infrastructure goals. And then, keep waiting, but it's me that has to push this up. Then the
Back to that
ongoing,
other slide?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, just because I think these neighborhood benefits are so important,
Mhm.
at least to me,
Okay.
to what we're talking about here. And so I was just hoping that we could spend a little bit
Sure.
of time talking about this. So something that I'm really interested in is there's going to be a lot of people walking to the train station.
Yep.
What is their experience when they come to this lot? How do they pass through it? What,
Yep.
say you're at the northernmost
Yep.
tip
Mhm.
of Hancock, down by Panera, you come out of that neighborhood and you gotta get to the T.
Sure.
What's your experience like?
Okay. Want to hit this, Matt?
Sure.
Yeah.
Matt spends all his time working on details.
Panera?
Just to flip back to the site slide, if I could here for 1 second.
And what I'm interested in
Yeah,
is
sure.
that the public isn't coming up to a huge, massive edifice that they feel is not welcoming them in, but instead it's something that they have to walk around. And I'm not just talking about the retail on Hancock, I mean passing through the entire structure, because I feel like as I go around the country and I see new developments, that's the best part of the pedestrian,
Right.
is feeling like when you come to something, it's a very logical experience about how you get through it or around it.
Absolutely. So this area right here is really the front door to the project off of Hancock Street. This is all open to the air above. There are 20-foot wide sidewalks on each side of the main entry into the drop-off for the MBTA and into the parking. So a pedestrian walking along Hancock Street would be walking down this sidewalk spine right here across a raised crosswalk to the MBTA Head House Plaza right here. And what they'd be walking past is street trees on their left with a landscape buffer kind of separating them from the vehicular traffic here. And they'd be walking along the very active glassy facade, and I'll flip back to Nancy's slide of the renderings of this area as well, but I just wanted to show you in plan view what that space looks like, because it is a wide, kind of generous space that you're traveling through there. This island between the inbound and outbound lanes here will be where our identity signage is. It'll be where the MBTA sign is, indicating that this is the way back to that MBTA head house. And it will also have the signage indicating that this is the entry to the residential development and to the retailers that are part of the project as well.
The driveway, the walkway on the north side of that driveway, is that open air all the way to the train station?
It's
Does it go
open
under the
air
garage?
until you get to right here, and then the garage and residential structure is above you, and then it's open air again back at that location.
In this entire area, it's about roughly, about 16 feet high.
16 and a half,
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a-
very high.
So it's a very high ceiling, as opposed to, it's not like an 8-foot ceiling. Now, when you get up into the garage levels, they do come down kind of traditional, but purposely keeping this whole area very high up in the air so that it's nice and open air.
And I'm just going to flip back to some of the architectural renderings, because these do a great job of showing what that space
Yeah, that was, just look
looks
back
like.
to the corner, right there.
So the walk I just described to you is right along this edge, and that is the portal, if you will, underneath the residential that continues to bring you back to that MBTA
And
head house.
if you go down that street, but you do not want to ride the MBTA, but rather you want to get to the opposite far southernmost corner, are you able to pop out? Can you cut diagonally across the site?
So if you look at the little diagram here,
Yep.
this is that entry we're talking about right
Yep.
now, and you're asking how you get to
Exactly.
this end.
Yeah.
So Hancock Street has a sidewalk all the way down this edge, and you make a right and come up West Swanham Street, right there.
Or you could walk into the site
Or you
here
can walk into the site.
and then walk through.
So you can walk in and
You
through it.
can,
Yeah.
And then you can pop out.
You pop out right here, right along this corner right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
let me-
so
let
it's
me
not
go back
like
to
you
the site
hit a
slide.
dead end.
Oh, yeah.
You can walk through the entire complex. That's what I was wondering about.
Correct.
Is that you don't hit dead ends.
Nope, you can walk under here and connect up with this sidewalk that's at the main retail entry here, and you would be able to walk up a series of ramps that would take you up to the upper entry that Nancy described earlier, right here.
Very helpful.
Thanks.
Now you gotta get back to where you were, DJ.
Sorry about that.
We have the public benefits,
There you go.
we talked about that, and then I was just moving on to really kind of the one-time benefits. It's about 1,100 construction jobs, about $2 million in construction permit fees to the city, and then to the MBTA, which is making a huge investment over the next few years in Quincy, about $1 billion in total between all the new red line cars, all the rail improvements. For this development, we'll pay them in ground rent over the term of the lease, about $200 million in ground rent. So they're essentially using their real estate to help leverage reinvestment into the T, which thankfully they're doing, and then about $3.5 million a year to the state in income and business taxes. With that, that's kind of the topics we wanted to cover tonight. Obviously, we're happy to answer any questions or get into any further detail that you may want us to do.
Any questions from the board at this time? Okay. This is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to speak, I just ask that they come forward and identify themselves. And as I've said in the previous public hearings, there are sheets in the window. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Maureen Conway. I live at 11 French Street. And I speak today not only as a resident, but as a lifelong T commuter and a member of Quincycles. It's a bicycling advocacy group in Quincy, trying to build up the bicycle infrastructure within the city. We've had numerous conversations with folks that have already presented, and we're very pleased with the focus on pedestrian safety and cycling safety. We're pleased with the allowance for cycling storage post-construction. The one question we do have is, during construction, will there be storage for bicycles? Covered storage. Right now it's open. There are a number of bike racks, not only on the Hancock Street side, but also on the West Quantum Street side.
Talking about something similar to what's at Wallaston?
Wollaston is actually totally enclosed. I
That's
think
what I meant.
maybe post-construction, that's what North Quincy will look like. But this would be during construction. I know we're just looking at North Quincy, this issue, but we're undergoing a watershed movement this summer with construction being done on 3 T stations. It would be great if we could encourage more folks to not only walk to the T station, but to cycle. There is a member of our group who lives in Wollaston on Beach Street. He cycles from his home, he parks it at North Quincy, he cycles and he takes the T. He gets off at MGH Charles and he gets a Hubway bike and he cycles the rest of the way. So it's kind of making it easy for different types of transportation. So again, it is our hope that more people will cycle back and forth to the T station, reducing traffic. And I would hope that the group that's doing the construction would be able to make allowances during construction for that. But I'm really excited about the improvements to the T.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Good evening, my name's Andrew Howell. I live at 24 Bluefield Street over in Squantum. I moved here about 6 years ago from Florida to work at Granite Telecommunications right down to sort of abuts this project. I was very nervous about my little Mustang being able to drive in the snow, so I drew about a 1 or 2 mile radius around Granite and ended up living in Marina Bay. And I've been in between Marina Bay and Squantum ever since. Very much for this project. I think as a nearby homeowner, I think from a property value stance, it's wonderful. It would look beautiful. It's another, close by place in order to eat and shop. Even when I worked at Granite at the time, there was 1,500 or 1,600 people. There's probably north of 2,000 now. They're on their 3rd building. There was a small couple cafeterias to eat, and then everyone's jumping in their car and racing out at lunch. I frequently tested how much a human being can eat Chipotle in the course of a week. It takes a little bit. You got to go into Dorchester to go to the store there, or in Milton to the fruit center if you want to get a sort of reliable good place for lunch. And so you've also got the Blue Cross Blue Shield nearby there, and State Street. There's just a ton of people working right in that area, and to have more options for them to eat and just a nice place to go walk, I think is really, really helpful. And so I'm very much in favor of the project. I think it will be a great addition to the North Quincy. I've seen just in the 5 or 6 years that I've lived here, the investment that's gone into Quincy Center, and how much more frequently that I'm down here looking at eating out the new restaurants and actually going out in downtown Quincy rather than going out in Boston. And we have more friends that are slowly starting to come to the area, just because it's really improved just in the short time that I've been here. So I just wanted to give my overwhelming support, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Fowler?
Identify me before I get here.
I'll identify.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Tom McFarland. My address is 774 Hancock Street, where my business is. I'm here tonight to wholeheartedly support this project, as scarily someone for over 40 years has worked at or owned a small business in Wollaston and North Quincy. And so happy to see this type of investment and really clean up the city's gateway. It's what you get when the state and the city and the T got together and designed transit-oriented housing. and developer came forward and gave a great plan. So I know you guys will do your job and make it come out beautiful, but I am here to wholeheartedly support it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Stenberg. I live at 7 Seaport Drive. I work downtown. I'm a young professional. I moved out here about a year ago, and I love living in Quincy, but without access to a car and getting to the T, it's very difficult. And thinking about where my next spot is, if there was an attractive option like this that is super close to the MBTA and accessible to the city, in and out every single day, I think I would jump on that in a second. And I think other people like myself who live in the city and don't want to be out in the suburbs, but don't want to be downtown, would think the same as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'd like to just have one comment, please.
John Orfeld, 62 Grand Wall Road. This is a good project, but in the big scope of planning, Councilor Forrest is here, so she can maybe help, because the councils were talking about this the other night. But open space, maybe by eminent domain, taking over McDonald's and taking over that other building, so another developer isn't allowed to just come in sometime in the future and put a building that doesn't fit right and sort of in front of that building. And it would be nice to have open space for the people. So I wish that basically, you would look into maybe creating some open space in that space that's right in front of that, because that's the only part I don't understand. The whole project looks beautiful, but I don't really understand how the McDonald's drive-through, that other building's been there for a long time, that would make a beautiful park. That would be something that I would wholeheartedly support and would really make our gateway really nice, because I'm looking at North Quincy. Unfortunately, what's happened in Quincy Center, we've split the city up. North Quincy might be a lot different than the rest of Quincy. And that is our gateway coming in. That bridge was under construction forever. Finally, now you can come over that bridge, and it would be nice to have a nice park there. I mean, obviously, it would be great for everybody with tons of bike racks. Thank you.
Thank you. Council?
Well, we're breaking things. Is this, we don't need it, right? I'm loud enough. So, good, is this for your
I'll hold the mic
paparazzi?
for you if you
Yeah,
want.
pretty well. So good evening, my name is Margaret LaForest, I'm the Ward 1 Councilor, but I do have an interest in this project that I want to speak to you tonight. We all share the frustration of the antiquated infrastructure of our public transportation, and this project really creates the opportunity. Quincy deserves better, and this is how we're going to be able to work on it. The public taxpayer can't afford to make these improvements. We've dealt with antiquated infrastructure for a long time. This is a very interesting project to come to our community, especially in an area of the gateway of the city where we've invested a lot of our public tax dollars. You look at the intersection of West Squantum and Hancock in the rebuild. You look at the Teal Field project and the expansion of the North Quincy campus. You look at us investing in burying our utilities in the area, and then the floodplain improvements. Substantial improvement to the North Quincy gateway made by the municipality, and now a partnership across the street working with Atlantic Development in Bizzuto. It's very impressive. Absolute transformation for the gateway, and it's going to completely change the game for the city of Quincy. I think we heard earlier the improvements for pedestrian access. Cole, I thought your case in point right on about the promotion of the neighborhood benefits and what is it, what's that experience like? And I think we really have to value that, because right now, what is that experience like, right? When it's all blacktopped over, it's a blight, and you look at the 7-acre parcel, probably 80% of it is in the floodplain. This is not efficient and effective stormwater management use. You have an area that, as you always hear me talking about floodplain management over the past few years, major impacts to the North Quincy and Montclair neighborhood with those feeding flood maps. And now we have an opportunity where we did on the other side of Hancock Street to correct some of our problems because of smart development, because we're not just blacktopping over the floodplain. So I think that as we're looking at planning this development, meeting needs of a neighborhood, providing retail experience, providing housing, transit-oriented development housing we hear about, and here's the opportunity. We're hearing young professionals coming to our neighborhood. We want access to the city. We want to be able to have easy access to downtown, right? So, other things in my notes. I wanted to share, I spoke about, and I appreciate, Maureen, that you're here for Quinn Cycles. I did get an email from Quinn Cycles with some information that I forwarded on to the planning department just early this evening. And I just wanted to recognize that right away, Mr. McKinnon was said that he was open to, kind of bike infrastructure and understands that the connectivity opportunities along Commander Shea Boulevard, for example, Marina Bay, how easy it could be if we made the improvements. And again, something that not only the developer, the municipality, and the other area improvements that we're looking at can work together. So I will forward all of that information to you for the record. We do appreciate that you recognize not only just pedestrian access to the site, vehicular access to the site, as well as those for cycling. I do want to be here tonight to support this project, to support development in the gateway of our city. We're having a lot of projects happen in our train stations, and I think that's difficult to understand, but now the money's being spent in Quincy. We need to take advantage of this opportunity to make the improvements. We all know Quincy's potential. The sky's the limit, and this is a really great kickoff to our transit development, so I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Council. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay.
Yeah. So, the one additional question I want to come back to you, I hesitated to bring it up, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the gentleman who stood up said exactly what I've been saying for the past 2 sessions, that we need better restaurants in North Quincy. And as much as I love going to 99 when the Red Sox win and the kids eat free, I want to go home to where I grew up, which is that part of the city, and go and get something to eat. And so the question that I have is, I understand that a supermarket's on the agenda, but can you give me an idea of what you're thinking of doing with those other retail spaces? And is a restaurant in the realm of possibility? I know you can't commit to what's going to be there now, but I just want to understand, are we talking going to be a T-Mobile, or is it going to be something that people can interact with? And I really want the latter.
The goal of the retail, even the grocery itself, I mean, we envision more neighborhood grocery. If you go to a lot of the new concepts, you actually have, not only prepared foods in them, but in many cases, they're now starting to add eat-in areas that are different from just eating in a grocery store, where they actually make them much more like a restaurant area. So
like road shutters in downtown Boston.
Those type of concepts are the type of things that you see. So we're still, working with, various retailers, restaurants, groups like that. We see the retail as, clearly, playing off the neighborhood and supporting the neighborhood, but quite frankly, also the people that live right on top of it. So the type of, T-Mobile doesn't do a lot to help the renters above and the residents there. Things that you're talking about, restaurants, we think it's a great direction to go. We don't have people signed up at this point, but that's clearly the direction that we'd like to see this move, so.
Great.
Yep.
So, I get to exercise my right as told by the planning director. So one of the most important points I wanted to make was the design guidelines and how the city wants to spend so much time reviewing with all of our consultants to talk about what we want developments to look and feel like. So, while we did divorce Streetworks helped us with a lot of our homework, and a lot of it is included in this project because when we did the TOD, when we did the air rights, when we did the design guidelines, a lot of that carried over into the North Quincy project. So I think people need to understand, as these developments are happening, the city has a very active role and a lot of behind the scenes work with the planning department going in. So just shout out to the planning staff, because they really do a lot behind the scenes that is not, this is not just the meetings. I mean, this is back and forth. I know this project is into my district, but I'm with you all the time on my projects. And when we talk about what we're able to integrate and understand what the expectations were, the city did a great job in spelling that out so that the developer can come in with their project knowing what set expectations are, knowing what the checklist is, with the certificate of consistency, and what they need to do that is consistent throughout the city. So I just really wanted to add that, because I feel that was a lot of homework that flies under the radar. So thank you.
Thank you, Council. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, Okay, I just have one comment, and that is a thank you to the applicant and the team, because they are the ones that suggested that we break this presentation into two different hearings. I think it makes it easier to digest the project and better understand the project. And I thank them, because at the time I'm saying to myself, well, you know, but clearly the step-by-step process that you've led us through has been helpful to me, and I think to my fellow board members. So thank you.
Good approach, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
Also, I'd like to introduce a letter from the trade to the T, and also from a neighbor in support of this project. The T itself has written a letter to the planning board saying how much they're in favor of this project.
Why don't you read them into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh boy, okay. Okay.
I'll help you with the big word.
Yeah. Anything more than 2 syllables, I'm out. All right. And by the way, I'm a big fan of the restaurants, so as you can tell.
Yeah.
All right. Dear members of the planning board, this letter is to offer formal support for the transit-oriented development TOD being proposed at the North Quincy Station by the joint venture Pursuit Development and Atlantic Development. The increased operating revenue generated by the ground lease, as well as the project increase in ridership, will help maintain service and improve the experience for our customers, many of whom are Quincy residents. Over the past 12 months, the developer has worked diligently to formulate an appropriate design plan and create a development that will become a vibrant addition to the surrounding community. This process has produced a plan that meets both our requirements and broader transit-oriented smart growth goals. The 610 residential units that will be built at a site, along with the contribution by the developer to the city's Affordable Housing Fund, realizes the goals laid out by Governor Charlie Baker's Open for Business initiative. This initiative aimed to use surplus MBTA land to create greater value to the Commonwealth and the cities and towns for which these sites are located in. The residential component, coupled with 50,000 square feet of retail space at the site, will transform what is currently a parking lot and station into a vital hub for the MBTA customers and city residents alike. We view this development as one that will be mutually beneficial to the city of Quincy and to the MBTA, and we hope to continue to work together to ensure this project becomes a reality. Sincerely, Janelle Chan. If I could introduce that to the board. I guess I'll go on. Okay. This is from Hannah Redsos from 230 Willard Street. Good afternoon. I'm writing with regards to North Quincy MBTA redevelopment project. I live in Quincy, and it's great to see all the development happen in the city. A lot of young professionals are looking for living options other than downtown Boston, and the development in Quincy provides this. Over the years, I've heard so many say that they would love to move to Quincy, but would only do so if there was more going on more ample opportunities. I am in complete support of this project and am excited to move forward. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Chairman. Well, just to wrap it up, and I appreciate the board's time. We know it's an ongoing process, and we know this is a large development for the city, and it's a large development for the BTA, and it's a great partnership between the Atlantic Development and Pizzuto. And we know working together with the planning department, and they've been absolutely incredible to work with, and I know they got a lot on their shoulders. We're going to proceed forward. I think this will be a great project. And we're looking forward to moving forward, and we're looking forward, if opportunity arises, to have, obviously, we're going to have further discussions on this. But at this point, we'd say that you can see there's nobody pretty much here. The people that spoke in favor. And I think we're ready to move forward with this board and working on this.
I agree with Mr. Hernandez. I think with the two public hearings, the public has been afforded an opportunity to speak. And I would be looking for a motion to close the public hearing with the postscript, with the caveat that indeed the general public, if they want it, they can email, they can snail mail to the department. The comments will be then part of the record and will be reviewed by the department. So I'd be looking for a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. Is there a second? Second. For discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.